What did Mark Zuckerberg like so much about an edtech startup here in Bengaluru? Well, we at Bloomberg Quint have come down to BYJU'S headquarters to find out.
One, the fact that how we are using technology to personalize learning, because something which you can never do in an offline, in the traditional classroom model. Second reason is the fact that it's getting equal traction, not just in metros, also in small towns, and the social impact associated with it. These are the two reasons which got them excited.
Today we're here in Bangalore and we have with us the founder and CEO of India's largest edtech company, BYJU'S. Byju of BYJU'S, thank you so much for joining us on Bloomberg Quint.
Yeah, thanks, Ayush.
Byju, let me start by asking you, what makes BYJU'S so special that Mark Zuckerberg decided that the first investment that his foundation makes in Asia will be in BYJU?
I don't think investments sets you apart. What sets you apart is the foundation on which you build your company. So it's built on passion. In fact, I always tell that I started teaching as a hobby during weekends. Idea was never to start a business. The impact which it made on thousands of students who started attending those classes because through word of mouth, it ended up becoming a business. That's why I'll tell that I'm an engineer by chance, a teacher by choice, which I realized once I started teaching, and without any doubt an entrepreneur by chance. So just by chance that I started teaching my friends who were preparing for an exam called CAT, which gets you into IIMs and similar institutes for MBA.
Which you've already topped twice.
In fact, that was also by chance because my friends, those who know me, my batchmates, they called me for some help. When they were in Bangalore, they were preparing for that exam. I was helping them over weekends, over a coffee, in coffee days, and along with them, I also took the exam. Idea was never to do an MBA. This was during my vacation. I was working outside as a service engineer. So during my vacation, helping friends, took the exam with them. I was taking it very casually. Most of the people take all the exams under so much pressure that they don't perform up to their potential. So ended up doing well, scored 100 percentile, and then went back to work. So second time around, I worked for another 2 years. Came back to India. This is in 2005. More friends came because they all realized that I'm giving them some kind of magic or tricks which helps them in exams. And then it just took off. So 30-35 students attending those initial workshops on Sundays in Bangalore itself. But within 6 weeks.
But let me ask you, you always enjoyed the teaching more, yeah? You never wanted to, and you did get 100 percentile twice in that CAT exam. You're a national math Olympiad winner. You never felt like taking that forward? Perhaps academia was the way forward for you?
Yeah, no, so teaching is very close to me because that kind of gave me the kind of satisfaction which I was never getting before. Because when I say teaching, it's not the typical 25-30 class students in the classroom. From the beginning, from 6th or 7th week onwards, the batch size went up to 1,000. So I started teaching in large auditoriums. So it was almost like teaching, which I realized is also an art. It's like a performance. Kind of gave me so much satisfaction because I realized it's making an impact. They were giving me so much respect which I was never getting before. Even though I used to enjoy my first job a lot, like for which I did for almost like 2.5-3 years. And so teaching was always close to me, but it becoming business was never expected.
You know, also, let's talk about.
So the differentiator for the question which you asked, like what is the differentiating factor here? Is because from that kind of experience of teaching thousands and then later lakhs of students, what I realized is that we all miss the fun part in learning when you learn only for exams. Like if you look at what most of the students do, they memorize, they replicate, they forget. Once exam is over, everything is over, right? So it's almost like a task. It's not something which they like how they watch, when they watch a movie, when they play a game, they all like it. That's not how people look at learning. We can't do that with all the subjects, but the fact is, there are always subjects which you really like. Even there, when you learn only for exams, right? You miss out on the real part of the learning, the real experience, the fun part of learning you miss out. So that's when I realized that, because when I was learning, right? One thing which is very important here is what sets the context of me be doing well in exams is also the fact that I used to like spend very less amount in classrooms. I'm not the typical good students like the studios kind which you might relate to. I used to spend most of my time outside classrooms playing multiple games. So the games are very close to me because what you learn inside classrooms is important, but what you learn outside classrooms is a lot more important.
But you know, Byju, that's what I want to come to, which brings me to my next question about rote learning, right? In India, rote learning is almost the norm, right? For so many years, for the last 100 years. When you came up with Byju with this cool indigenous content, you know, really cool videos that you guys come up with, great ways to, you know, study math, physics and the sciences, was that really something that you found difficult to change that? Because essentially what you're doing with Byju in the app is discouraging that culture. Was that a difficult thing to do?
No, I think, see, the main differentiator is that we never focused, so we are not trying to change the system, because it's very difficult to change what happens in a classroom, because that's like, but it's easy to change the learning habits of a student, because the new age students who are used to devices, who are used to like very independent, like they are, it's easy to make them change the way they learn, because if you take a look at how a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old is learning today, you will get the answer. They all learn, they learn well before even going to a classroom. They learn a lot of things well ahead of us, right? How are they learning? They are learning from videos, they are learning from YouTube, and they are not under pressure, because they are not learning for exams, right? And they do ask a lot of questions. They learn because of that childlike curiosity. For some reason, we miss that in our system, right? In a system where the focus is only on the end results of marks and grades, where you are like, there's so much pressure on students, because you are only looking at exams. What we miss out is, if you learn right, your exams anyway will be taken care of. So we need a system where learning, where the exams are taken care of and not learning for exams. So keeping this in mind, when we started creating this product in 2011, focused on school students, we made sure that it's student-centric. Like, that's why we have created a product which makes them like learning, which gets them addicted to learning, or as our campaigns talk about, which makes them fall in love with learning. And that is why it has worked, because once they like it, when they start using it, when parents see that, it becomes a trend.
You know, and of course, and there are also figures to back this up, because you guys have more than 5.5 million downloads on both app stores. You guys have nearly, I think, 2.5 lakh active subscribers. 90% of them renew their subscriptions every year. So clearly you guys are also managing to retain those guys and get new guys as well. I think 30,000 added every day. What's the average time that, you know, a student spends on your app?
So the business numbers which you mentioned, 250,000 plus students on the annual subscription, 5.5 million downloads, these are all exciting numbers. But what is really, more than that, what we observe, what we track is the fact that they are spending more than 40 minutes per session, which is similar or more than what they might be spending on movies and games, is a big validation of the fact that they are liking it. And that's why I've always mentioned that the biggest difference here is these are formats which they like, and so liking alone is not enough, it has to be effective. Now, if it's not effective, you won't see the kind of renewal rates which you have seen, which is more than 90% from last academic year to this academic year. So these are two important numbers for us. Now, the student numbers which you mentioned are still very small numbers. So if I tell you that we are creating a revolution in learning in here and all, it will all be wrong, because we're just starting off. A long way to go, but we know that we are on the right path.
And what are your targets like? You guys are looking at big numbers, I'm sure.
I think if we make sure that if we continue innovating, and because we are creating a segment of millions of self-paced learners, if we make sure that we can't be complacent here, right? We need to make sure that when you are competing with yourself, when you are creating a segment, it's important that you compete with yourself. You need to continuously innovate in terms of how to make it more effective, more interesting, more personalized, right? So, and if you do all these things right, because that's been what we have always been focusing, right? Creating a product which the students like. The numbers will come, because you are looking at like the largest school segment in the world, which is 260 million plus students. So even like 2% is like you're talking about 5 million students. So that's why I told that like it's just the beginning.
Byju, another thing I wanted to ask you was, see, in 2011 you guys came up with VSAT and internet lectures, right? In 2015 the Byju app was actually formed, and that's when you guys came out with it on the app stores. But the question that I had really was, what was the transition like from being a sort of brick and mortar business and transitioning that into a full-fledged digital business, coming out with your own content? Did you guys face any difficulties there?
See, when you're doing something new, it's like there'll always be challenges, but I think it's an advantage. When we started off we were a very successful test web brand, not in its conventional format of 20-30 students in a classroom. It was always about 1,000 students, and then late in auditoriums to thousands of students in stadiums. So that there itself, the first challenge was how to make it non-interactive. That kind of forced us to innovate in terms of how we deliver content, how we simplify content, how we make it contextual and visual, not just theoretical, so that students are kind of helped to become better learners, where the focus was on how to learn. This helped us to kind of naturally transition to a video-based format. Because in a video-based format, it's very important to be like it's non-interactive, where you also kind of expect and predict the student's doubt and clear that during your lesson itself. And later, when the smartphone reach increased and when the apps became popular, we were able to adapt to the technological advancements or kept pace with technology advancements and use technology as a strong enabler in terms of making it more and more accessible, but more importantly to make it even more personalized. So when we launched the app just a year back in 2015, we got tremendous response with downloads coming from all downloads, and later them becoming serious users on annual subscription on large numbers, not just from metros. So one important fact here is, like, we do get good number of users. Close to 70% of them come from outside the top 10 cities.
Right.
And that's a big validation of the real impact which it can make in terms of making high quality content accessible.
And the desire to really be educated.
Yes, and because if you see one thing which you can always observe is they're always lot more aspirational when you come, and it's important from its impact, because other than the business numbers, right, what really keeps you passionate about giving your best and continue running at this pace is the fact that you can make a big impact if you can make millions learn better, because you can change their lives, right? And as we know, education is still the only way to make it big in India for most of the Indians, right? So,
well, you know what? You're standing here with me in Bangalore. You're wearing a black t-shirt, which I've been told is your favorite. I'm the second man in black wearing a black t-shirt as well. There's also someone in the US named Mark Zuckerberg who has a fixed dress code as well, his t-shirt and his jeans. Well, something about Byju caught his eye, because the Chan Zuckerberg initiative with another set of investors recently is when you guys made the headlines, actually invested $50 million into your startup. This obviously follows some consistent rounds of funding. 5 months ago, you guys raised some money from Sequoia and Sofina as well. So, you know, Byju, it's obviously encouraging and great, but it brings me back to my first question, right? Firstly, what was your reaction to this investment by Mark Zuckerberg's philanthropic arm, the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation? And what are you going to do with that funding as well? That's one of the key questions that I have.
Very, very excited, naturally. So, like, otherwise I'll be lying. The fact that they are backing this, and fact that they are personally very excited to be part of this, to come and partner with us, mainly because of two reasons, as he has mentioned in his post. One, the fact that how we are using technology to personalize learning, because something which you can never do in an offline, in the traditional classroom model, because that's always one to many, and teachers can only do it, even if there are 20-30 students, your lessons can never be personalized, right? That's where we are using technology very well. Still, there's a lot more scope to improvement. That's reason number one. The second reason is the fact that it's getting equal traction, not just in metros, also in small towns, and the social impact associated with it. These are the two reasons which got them excited, and it's very much scalable. You can use this, a similar product can be taken outside India and can also be launched in multiple countries, and it can really change, it can make learning accessible, interesting, meaningful and personalized for students across the world, and that potential is the reason why they decided to partner with us. So what we are planning to do over the next few months, next few years, is a product like this, as something which encourages students to learn on their own, and that's the key. Because when you're talking about a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, if you can make sure that they learn on their own, we believe that's the best way to learn, where students take the initiative in learning on their own, teachers and parents play supporting roles. So it's the other extreme to what you normally see, right? The kind of spoon feeding which you see, and this can really change the game in how students start learning, how maybe not all the subjects, at least the subjects which they like, and there's a tremendous potential outside India. So we will be focusing on, from a product development perspective, we have just started making products which will address this need outside India, and then we will be like taking this to multiple markets.
So you'd be expanding essentially to English-speaking markets.
To begin with, and later we'll also look at.
That brings me to my next question, Byju. You know, you guys have a fantastic product. It's been, lauded as a world-class application. Why are you guys sticking just to English? Why aren't we looking at regional languages, at least in India?
So this is a parallel exercise. So we are starting a similar product for the international segments. In India also, we have plans of doing this in some more languages.
Right.
And the bandwidth which we have today in terms of our content, media and technology teams, we will be able to do both together. So there is plan to do this in multiple languages. Like focus will also be on, because we believe a product like this can easily come from India with the kind of talent we have over here across these teams which I mentioned. So exciting times.
No, and it's absolutely exciting times, Byju. But I'll tell you one more thing, I went to law school and I must confess, I never attended even a lecture at law school in 5 years. What I did was I learned hands-on, on the job. I started interning at an early age. And then after that also, when exams came, I studied by myself. There was no Byju app for me, so I never had access to such world-class content. And there are several Indians like that as well, right, who end up studying by themselves. The quality of education is not always top-notch. Do you think that, you'd be venturing into these professional courses as well once people join, med school or law school? Is that something you guys would consider as well?
No, right now we are completely focused on the school segment. Reason being, those are the years where the foundation is laid. It's important that students learn how to learn, because there's too much focus on the what of learning, where they miss out on the whys and hows of learning, right? So it's almost like you show them how to learn, and when they learn how to learn, right? It becomes easy for them once they get into this higher age group, higher courses. It becomes it's very easy for them to learn on their own. So that's why initially we are very completely focused on the school segment. There is no immediate idea of focusing on the other segments, because this itself is a very, very large segment and there's a lot more to do in this segment.
Also, Byju, you grew up in a small village in Kerala. You went to school in a Malayalam medium school in Kerala as well. And you played a lot of sports, is what I've been told. You're an avid football player, you play cricket and a host of other sports. How much do you think that was imperative and essential in shaping your personality to become Byju the entrepreneur?
Yeah, you can dramatize the story by asking that question, but the fact is this has played a very important role, and what is inspiring, what you can take out from this story is that there was equal focus on curricular learning as well as co-curricular learning, or you can say indoor learning, inside classroom and outdoor learning. Inside classrooms you do learn subjects, right? It's very important, but what do you learn outside classrooms, right? The real life skills which you can never get from a classroom, right? How to play in a team, how to work in a team, right? How to lead a team, how to have that killer instinct, how you can have controlled aggression, right? How you can be extremely positive. These are all scenarios which you can't get inside a classroom, right? So a lot of parents and students miss out on this aspect today, right? When you get into this structured learning inside classrooms from morning till evening, then tuition class, then at home doing homework, right? They are missing out on those crucial years where you need to learn these real life skills, which is what you will decide, right? What you will become is a function of how well you learn these real life skills, and there is no substitute for that. You can't learn that by playing video game, right? You can't improve your social skills when you play your video game. Like, you end up becoming too self-centric, right? So my background of coming from that kind of a background, I think it's always been a big advantage. Like, I went to a normal school, not even an English medium school, but the fact that that kind of may give you only one chance of learning most of the things on your own.
Right.
But the other things which you learn without even realizing that you are learning all these things is very, very important. Especially the games is just one part of it. Right? There are so many other extracurricular things which you can do if you are interested in it.
Right.
But most of the students are not even exploring those kind of things today. So it's very, very important. It's as important as anything else which I've learned in math and science.
Another thing that's very important, Byju, is the access to education. Like you said, there's nearly 260 million potential subscribers that you could target, but there's a lot more people in this country. And we're fortunate enough that the right to education in India, at least, is guaranteed under the Indian Constitution. So anywhere between the age of 6 and 14, well, that education the government should be looking at. Are you also looking at really coming in with any sort of products or any sort of assistance in that space as well? Because I'm guessing that would also be something close to your heart.
Yeah. It's very important for me to make sure that a lot of students who are not even getting access to any kind of good education, we are coming out with programs which will make sure that a lot of students who can't access or who can't afford our kind of products, especially in government schools and this thing, will be soon be announcing those programs where we are finding out mechanisms where they can get this product free. So And because you will always have two segments, a segment who can actually get this product and who can pay for it, and there will be a segment who can't. So, but you don't lose anything by making sure that this is accessible to even to them. So we are talking and we are coming out with programs and plans which we'll be announcing very soon.
Also, in terms of funding, you're still an edtech startup, the largest in the country, but I'm guessing you're always constantly searching for more funds. Is that the mantra here as well? Because you guys just secured a fantastic round of funding. Now, Mohandas Pai was one of the initial investors. Give us some more details about what you've already achieved and what we have
never tried chasing investors or chasing investments, right? It's always, since we had a solid or fundamentally right model in terms of something which is solving or something which is solving a big need in the society, right? It's not about e-learning or online learning, right? What is important is, you mentioned that, what is important is actually better learning. There is always a segment for better learning. Now, using technology, right? That's where we have clearly differentiated. It's not just offline content digitized and putting it online, right? There's a lot more effort going in behind. It's not just, like the right way of putting it across will be education media technology company, because there's a content team who's making it effective, there's a media team who's making it interesting, and there's a technology team who's making it accessible and personalized, right? So the key thing here is, when you have a model like that, which is with a huge potential, right? And there'll always be enough interest from investors. Now, do we need more investments today? I don't see a requirement, but as and when we grow like this, right? As and when you make similar impact outside India, if we get right partners, it's also about getting the right partners. It's not just about getting investors, right? It's also about getting partners who are excited about the segment as much as you are, right? It's not like an investor and founder. It's when you select your investors, important that you're getting a right partner who's almost like a co-founder. So something which you have done very well. So we are not looking for investments, but like as and when we move up, right? When we get into more and more places, if there is a requirement, I'm sure investments will come.
Super, Byju. Thank you so much for joining us on Bloomberg. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.